Yeah, I'm so happy and pleased to be here with this group. And I understand that we have participants from different countries, not just from Malaysia. So I'm very excited about addressing you all. So yeah, and I used to work in Hong Kong and Singapore for American Express, and then for Cigna, which are both Fortune 100 companies in Korea. And I used to be in charge of 17 different markets in Asia Pacific. So we traveled a lot through different regions and different countries. And since then, I've been working with Ideal Coaching in the US, and it's been an amazing journey. It's been fun. The thing that I loved when I was in the corporate world was empowering my team members. And I was kind of known for creating very high performance teams. So now I get to do that pretty much full time. So I love that. I love coaching. I love leadership training, executive coaching, leadership coaching. And I get to do all of that and create communities as well. So under the guidance of our founder, Betty Sproul, and also Ana Escalante, that KH has introduced. So I wanted to just kind of briefly introduce myself a little bit, and then I'll hand this over to Betty, and then so each of us can introduce ourselves a little bit. So Betty, do you want to go and say hello?
I do. Welcome everyone, and thank you. If you will write in the chat what country you're in, so we'll see who's here. It's Ideal Coaching is a global company, and Mexico, Malaysia, West Africa, Europe, many places. So we can say that we're a pluralistic. We are matching the pluralistic world that we are living in. I worked in some parts of Asia, worked in Malaysia. So when I started Ideal Coaching, it was in the 90s, 2000 was in the 90s. I had been a transformational trainer. Some of you are familiar with that. Transformational experiential trainer for many years, 14 years. And I said something else is needed because people are not going to go into a big training room. And what else is possible? And coaching was emerging at the time as a new phenomenon, as a new possibility, as distinct from therapy. And so what is coaching? And we'll get into some of that tonight. And, you know, it worked out pretty well. And because coaching has to do with one-on-one or groups, smaller groups, and long-term. And it's become an important part of business. Coaching, building, developing teams, not just talking at people, but developing the kinds of practices, the kind of language, the kind way of being, and the coordination of effective action is needed for us to not only coexist together, but to have something happen that wouldn't have happened unless we could participate as a team. And I want to introduce you to Ana. Ana, she's out of Mexico. Ana, introduce yourself and let's hear from you.
Welcome everybody, all the way here from Mexico City. It's a pleasure to be with you. We were looking forward to meet you, looking forward to this event and to talk, to just chat about what's coaching, what's possible. I am a psychologist, also a family therapist. In my previous life, before I met Betty Sproul, and I fell in love with coaching. And I've been a coach for almost 20 years. I've been practicing coaching in Mexico in private practice and also with many different types of companies in my country, where I have become a trainer, an executive coach, and organizational developer. So I have a lot of experience with organizations and also in private practice in individual coaching. I founded a company 15 years ago this year, and So my company they brought berries to Mexico, and we opened the school in 2010 in Mexico City. We have trained more than 300 coaches in our city, in our country, because it's really from all over the country. And now I'm the head of coaching programs in Ideal Coaching Global. And I'm just super happy to be here with you and to answer any questions that you may have about our program and about coaching and what can you expect from this learning school, as we call it.
Ask the fundamental question that is on your mind about coaching as a possible, as a profession or coaching generally. So go ahead. Yes, Rob, please. Thank you.
A question for Betty. You mentioned at one time you were a transformational trainer. I met some people in that line a few years ago now. How does what you offer or what you are talking about differ to those transformational trainers?
Okay, it's a very good question. Thank you, Rob. As a transformational trainer, and I trained many of the trainers that people know from that part of the world, especially Malaysia. We were concerned at the time with group dynamics and working with large groups. And we said something about who people are. You know, people are not their beliefs, people are not their bodies, people are not their history. So if people are not their history, then how do we work with people so they can have agency, accountability, responsibility, which equals choice in a number of ways. And the trainings were designed to have people wake up. The downside about those kinds of trainings, and they were very, very, very valuable, was that we didn't give people the kinds of practices that they needed long-term for sustainability. And that's where coaching came in. And we could have one-on-one dialogues with people instead of being someone up on the stage telling people the way that it is. It became more about learning together because coaching is a partnership. So when I go work with my clients, my business clients, I'm there to be their partner to have them accomplish in their life or in their business what it is quite often they're blinded to. And to be a participant with them in opening their eyes to where they are blinded. And we're all cognitively blind. Everybody know that, right? Not a bad thing to be cognitively blind. But to awaken and in a space where we could learn, and I don't mean learn information, but we want to move from information to knowledge to wisdom and put it all into action and practice. Is that answering the question, Rob?
Yeah, that's good because my memory of transformational training was a lot of rah, 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 feel good and end of story.
Yeah.
Another question, just to follow on from what you said, you talk about one-on-one partners, business people. What is sort of a fairly typical profile of your people in business or whoever you're working with the coaching? What is the typical profile, or so we just get an idea of the market, I suppose.
Okay, that's very good. And I'll let Xavier and Anna jump in on this. But a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, when coaching first started, and one man who's instrumental in bringing coaching into the marketplace was a man by the name of Fernando Flores. And Flores was a brilliant businessman and philosopher out of Chile. That's how I got introduced to coaching and specifically ontology. Right? But what we want to do is in terms of sustainability, which is why I got interested in coaching, you know, the rah, and it, no question about it. Some people's lives were definitely transformed, but it's the over time, the practices that count long-term. And so my clients have gone from, you know, executives, I mean, top companies, and a lot of entrepreneurs. And now with business, and you might understand this, Rob, because of the pandemic, what's going on globally, leaders need someone to sit and have conversations about what's possible. And like go down the river together, because coaching is not about telling people what to do, but we have a fundamental belief that people are brilliant. And if put in the right environment, in the right way, where there's a kind of listening, where they can begin to listen themselves, that brilliance will come through. So what would you say? Does that, Rob, is this making?
Yeah, that's good. That makes sense. Just sort of, when KH introduced me to this, sort of, my question in my mind was, it's going to be a business. What is the potential market? How do you communicate with that market?
Yes.
And so forth. So yeah, that's a good answer. What was the name of the philosopher in Chile you mentioned?
Fernando Flores.
Amanda Flores.
Yeah, Fernando.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Flores. And we use a lot of his work, especially around language. We find that language is a creative force, and that in the coordinating of our lives, there's certain language that if we have it, we can do well. And if we don't, we quite often will miss the boat, because business is about coordination of effective action inside the company, and then the coordination of effective action with our clients, the marketplace. Like I said, it was a brilliant piece of work. It changed my life, Rob, when I studied with him. I realized that I didn't only have to be a professor, what do I call it? A professor of philosophy, which I'm not, but I could also be a great businesswoman and do well at it.
Our students come from many different places that you will hopefully meet soon. Some of our graduates and future graduates, and some of them are business people, some of them are inside organizations, and some of them want to be full-time coaches. And you don't have to want to be a full-time coach to study in our school, because we really study human development. We study the way we can create teams, the effective action and effective ways of being that create great results. So we have people that don't want to become coaches that study with us, and some people that want to be full-time coaches, and also this is the school for them. So we combine philosophy, we combine biology, we talk about language and about competencies for effective action and competencies for effective leadership, and also competencies for effective coaches. So all of that combined with a philosophy of mindfulness and being able to observe the way we connect with the world, the way we talk about the world, the way we think about the world, how we participate in the creation of the world through our interpretation. That's probably one of the core teachings and practices that we train in our coaching school.
Rob, I thought that was a really brilliant question to make that distinction between how is this different from transformational kind of training type of coaching. So maybe I can address that from my own personal experience first, and then address kind of what you were asking about in the second question. The first one, now I was not a transformational trainer. I come from a business world, but I did go to like Landmark and a few other type of transformational kind of training. And what I noticed is that they have brilliant technology, and it definitely opens me up. And um, you know, I thought, wow, it's amazing. But one of the problems is kind of like Betty was alluding to, is people have a harder time making that kind of applicable to everyone, to everyday life. You can if you have a group that all are on the same page with you. But I know, like, for example, in San Francisco Bay Area, we had a restaurant called Gratitude Cafe, which directly came out from actually some of the transformational training people who got really inspired. And they created this very successful restaurant chain called Gratitude Cafe. But they ran into some problems because they wanted to get all their employees to go to transformational training, so that that everyone would have sort of same culture. Well, there was a lot of resistance to that, and there were a lot of people who called it a cult, and unfortunately, Gratitude Cafe ended up going under. And I think part of it is not because it wasn't doing well, but it was having a hard time, people who didn't know how to speak in that language with those sort of same mindset. I think the big difference between coaching is we're teaching people how to connect to anyone. So part of what's been happening, I think, globally is that we've been moving more and more towards tribalism. Both good and bad, but sort of us versus them. And I think what coaching really helps us to do is connect with anyone, help us to connect with anyone, to be able to not have the way we listen, the way we are present with people, that allows us to really connect to what's universal, what's similar, so that we can create tribes and really empathy and understanding with anybody. I've taught, I've done training in 13 different countries, and people have said, "Oh my God, you feel like I've known you, somebody that I've known for a long time." And I think that definitely comes from some of this kind of mindset and the practices that we do. Hopefully that answers it.
And I just want to say, the past 3 days last week, I spent with the Transformational Leadership Council, which is a council with some of the largest transformational companies in the world. Jack Canfield, a number of them, big companies, and they have big platforms still. And every one of them have added a coaching component to their training component, because they realize that people want more. Tony Robbins, familiar Tony Robbins, that name, but he wasn't in the meeting last week, so I don't want you to lead you there. He's not a member of the council. But huge people who are now going, that kind of intimacy that Xavier spoke of is what's needed today. And long term, for someone to embody, so our work is about embodiment, to embody a competency or practice happens over time. And to have someone with you becomes very important. So, yes, thank you, Rob.
So, as you know, coaching has been one of the fastest growing fields. In fact, pandemic has actually accelerated this process, because there's such a need for people who know how to communicate, who know how to listen. And as you know, even in the business world now, the leadership is going from sort of top down to much more collaborative process. So I have several friends who are in people and leadership development in different companies in California. And they're telling that the leaders are now being not required yet, but almost there, getting there to learn about skills so they can be coach leaders rather than just being directive. So I think this is one of these skills that's going to be even more important as we keep, progressing. So coaching has definitely been kind of a little bit of a Wild West when it first started, and it's starting to, I think, get settled. And I saw a lot of different coaching schools, and one of the things I love about what we're doing is that it's really based on the practice of inclusion and diversity. So it's not like I go to some coaching or other type of training schools, and even like I go to this sort of Buddhist, Zen spiritual like meditation centers in Marin County up in San Francisco, and I see a lot of the same people. It's very homogeneous, and one of the things I really love about our school is that it's so diverse, and I think this is going to be more and more important as we become more global, more intercultural, and as like there's more divisiveness. And I'm speaking a little bit from the U.S. perspective, but there's been, as you probably read, a lot of divisiveness, and the ability to connect people is becoming more and more important, and ability to inspire people. So, this is a kind of a leadership skill. I think that's almost at another level. And I think both at an individual level and an organizational level, I'm talking businesses, that this is going to be much kind of an in-demand skill that people are really looking for. So I'm also curious because I know there's a lot of people who've shown up here bright and early in the morning. So even if you don't have specific question, I would love to hear maybe in the chat, if you don't want to go ahead and speak out, but even in the chat, like what is it that you would like to know about? Why are you here today? So I'm just kind of curious about the reason people are curious about this field, because it is an exciting field and there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah. One of the things we learn in coaching is that silence is not a bad thing. So it's hard for a lot of people, but they're shaking their heads. I see some of our students, because our aim is for people to dwell together. And in dwelling together, in the togetherness, we can come up with something that's not possible in our individual separate self. And how do you do that? It has to do with a kind of listening and a kind of questioning, and not questioning like an attorney, no offense, Cage, but really that kind of questioning sometimes will shut people down. But we look to have people, because we make a claim, and you hear us talk this way. We make claims about who we are and what's possible. And we say that people are, there's something about us human beings, that's not our identity. But there's an aspect of us that's creating narratives, building stories. And who and what is that? And that's a company. If you look at a company is a narrative. It has a story that is, and not a story like a lie, but a narrative. And when there's congruency and consistency in the actions of the narrative, people tend to do well. But that's a particular kind of listening and a particular kind of speaking. And what is that? And in today's world, what's happening in business here in the United States and with individuals is there's an unsettledness that's happening. People don't know which narratives to believe, which narratives not to believe, and which narratives are can be created and invented. So we work with people at the level of bringing forth their lives with other people, and not, not like a vision board kind of thing. But there's a way to think. And I'll make another distinction for us, another claim. We want to teach people how to think, not necessarily what to think. And that's where the richness is. And then the question is, who are you becoming? And in the becoming, what is it that you become you might need to let go of? I'll just say this quickly. I was having a conversation with part of my staff here today, and I'm realizing that who I've been up until this point in time has been sufficient for my life. Now the next question, and this is where coaching takes place. Who are you becoming? What life do you want to live? I'm 73, so I think I got another 20 years to live. Not 20 years to work, but 20 years to live. So in this chapter of my life, who will I be? What message will I live? What kind of contribution will my message make to people? And other thing you'll learn that we're very much, we talk a lot about ecology, systems, living and learning, because we're living in a system, and the system is impacted by all of us. May not want to believe that, but it is. And so we want to give, we have a course called what's the name of our course?
ATEC.
ATEC, that Anna and Xavier have written. And it's working systemically with businesses and with cultures, because we live in a system, right? We're not isolated. And a part of what's happening with businesses here in the United States, some people are blinded to what's happening systemically on our planet and in our culture. And the people who can get in on that, not like fixing it, but what's possible. How do we invent that? What are the systems we need to invent and design inside the system that will serve the maximum number of people and in the best ways possible for the earth, for the people, and ourselves? Is that? And that takes a whole mind shift, which takes about 9 months. And then once you're with us for 9 months, guess what happens? Which is what we want to have happen, is that you become so interested in learning and shaping lives that you continue to be a learner. Not a student, but a learner. And in learning, which is what's needed now for us to navigate in this world that we are now living, to navigate, to shape, to shift, to bring forth. It's going to take some amazing people. And we have the skills, not the skills maybe, but we have the capacity to do that.
So Joanna asked, what do you think is the biggest reward and challenges as a coach? And I'll kind of go first. And she had think about somebody who really made a difference in your life, a teacher, maybe a really good friend. And why was it that they made such an impact? If you think back, it's probably because they really saw you, right? They saw the potential of who you can be. So they kind of sang you maybe your own song that you weren't listening to. And this is what coaches can do. The best coaches, they will really help see people as they are and their potential, and help them get their own answers. So they really empower them in a way to get them to thrive and to come alive, right? So I think that's one of the biggest rewards, to be able to make a difference in people's lives in a real tangible ways. And I've done that for both for businesses and for individuals. But the other thing is, by being a coach, I'm constantly in the practice of also being aware, being compassionate, listening, trying to communicate well. I don't always succeed, as people will tell you. I fall down a lot, but because I'm in the practice, my life is so much better. My relationships are much better. So there's all kinds of different rewards and time that I think are direct. I can work anywhere. All I need is a phone line, Zoom. I can work from Bali or from Hawaii or from California and make pretty decent living. I have a friend who's a very high-end coach, and he makes 800,000 euros last year as a coach consultant, for businesses. So depending on what you're willing to do and how you market and what markets you serve and how hard you work, you can actually make tremendous amounts of compensation while having an amazing time. The challenge is that there's a lot of noise out there. So it's good for you to really know your niche, to be able to stand out. And I think part of the ICF certification helps you to do that. Being with a good community helps you to do that. I think there are, these kind of challenges about first, when you're first getting in, especially if you're wanting to go into something like business coaching or leadership coaching, and you don't have a huge network, but that's something that we can help you with and communities can help you with. But those are some of the challenges.
A part of our school, we do have build your coaching practice. We work with people. For the people who want a coaching practice, we will provide the opportunities and the ways of being and the practices so that you can do that. Yeah, and we're continuously learning. We start out with, from beginners to a virtuoso. What is that? And we stay beginners in our coaching school because we're always learning. I tell you, one of the biggest challenges for people coming into our course is that we ask them to learn and to learn, which is not easy. How many of you know that you already know that you know a lot, right? Oh, yeah, okay. And so, but that is the sweet spot. I say that your superpower in the world today is learning to learn. Because if you can learn, you can navigate, cultivate and navigate in the world in ways that people who can't or won't learn will never do. And so that's our focus. There are 4 conferences that we have. And we have, interesting books that you read. So we're not just going to dump on you, like you are a turkey or a stuffed chicken. Because the true definition of education is to draw forward, to draw out. And, we have learning events. We have practices. We have, and with ICF, because we're part of ICF, the International Coaching Federation, and we operate by their competencies. This is a brilliant organization that's studied coaching for a long time and said, these are the competencies of a good coach. And one of the competencies that we learn is how to ask questions, how to be curious. So Anna, what would you say? What are some of the other competencies that we must learn?
Yes, Betty. Well, we must learn to listen actively, to understand, to be a space, to become a space in a relationship where our clients can listen to themselves and bring their own brilliance into play and to create their own solutions. And we learn to be present, to be fully here, so we can actually witness the beauty of our clients and the wisdom of our clients. And we learn how to create results. Like for me, the question that Xavier was answering, what would be the best reward for me? The creation of the relationships, powerful relationships with your clients and powerful results. I had the opportunity this week to interview 7 of my ex-clients because a company rehired me last week, and I worked with that company for many years, and I stopped working with them 3 years ago. So they called me again, and I interviewed the director's team. And some of them were my coaches. And to see them thrive, to see where they are, how they have developed, it was so, my soul was touched, like we talk, we just have a conversation last week, because the relationship is so powerful and was still alive. And so witnessing the transformation, not only of the person, but of their ecology. These companies growing in the middle of this crisis, they are reinventing themselves, they have resilience, these directors have visions, and they are working as a team. I just couldn't be more proud. This week I had this gift for me. So for me, that's part of the reward, and also part of the function of a coach. The coach comes along. The coach comes along to walk with you, so you can become who you want to be in your life. And it is related to purpose. It is related to what is it that will be my legacy, and who do I want to become? Who do I get to be or become to produce that legacy, that life that I want to create? And it's always more than me. It is us, it's togetherness, it's ecology. That's why we talk a lot about systems and ecology in our training. We are not alone. When we coach, we don't coach the person by themselves as if they were one tree in the middle of a desert. We coach the ecology of the person, who are the loved ones, what is the work, the purpose in their life, what is the different roles that they are playing. Sometimes the commitments get, competing with each other. That's why they are not creating the results they want. So becoming a coach is really becoming a person of effective action, a person that is standing tall and strong for the life of others, for the commitment of others, and becoming a safe space. So there's a lot of competencies that we teach in our school is aligned with the code of ethics of the International Coach Federation, because we value tremendously the commitment and the ethics of the coach. So this is just a very brief summary of what are the competencies of a coach that you will learn in our school. And most importantly is that you will actually practice them. So who will you be if you were to listen in such a way that you evoke the brilliance of others? How would you look like? Who would you be if you were able to ask the powerful question that would shift the perception of a community to enable them to create new results, new possibilities? Who will you be? You will be present in your life in such a way that you will enjoy in each moment, and you will enjoy your life fully. So that's the competencies that we teach, the competencies that we practice, and we surround them with a coaching profession. No? So that's what we do. So we are completely committed to our students because we know that the results that our students will create does not depend on the technique, on all the books that they will read, but it will depend completely on who they are being when they are becoming a coach, in which way, which language, which mind, which type of judgments or a space they will create for their clients. So that's why in this school, you will practice the ways of being of an ontological, ecological, mindful coach. That's what we're up to, and that's what we want to invite you to explore with us.
Anna's answer and the way she answers it. I mean, notice how listening to Anna, I feel so calm. Do you mind also answering Connie's question, Anna? Because I think you might maybe be a better
Thank you.
for answering my friends. I can read it out loud. My friends who are counselors ask me, what is the difference between coaching and counseling? Coaching is all about dialogue and change in behavior, as well as cognitive behavior therapy. So what are the differences in the approach and our dialogue?
So that's a very powerful question. I am a psychologist and a coach. So I invented, when I was studying psycho-coaching, I had everything mixed up and I didn't understand what was the difference, what I was doing. You know, I practiced psychotherapy and then I met Betty and then I'm doing this coaching. And then, so for me, the main difference is that there are several differences, but one of the main differences is that we as coaches are invested in the present to create the future. So our technologies, our practices, our philosophy comes from very different place than from the psychology space. Psychology comes from more from science and biology in the sense of understanding the mental health. So we do not treat mental health problems like severe depression, problems with anxiety or any of that. We are not prepared for that. But as coaches, we can take, for me, there is a space between being mentally ill and functionally well. So I function in my life. Like we all here, we function. We have a job, we eat, we sleep, we have some relationships with, we do life. And there is the same difficulty from getting from mentally ill to functioning than to functioning to have an incredible, powerful, purposeful life. That's the space of coaching. So we bring forth all our humanity, our strengths to create the life that we dream of, to create the results that we dream of. So that would be the first part. The second part is that we as coaches are prepared to create results. So nobody's going to hire you and pay you a very big bucks, just to talk. Or to, like, I have a joke from Woody Allen. Woody Allen is a American actor, and he's very funny. And he said once in one of his movies, "Oh, I've been in the psychoanalysis for 8 years." And why did you go to psychoanalysis? Because I was very anxious. And then the friend said, "And then you are not anxious anymore?" "No, I keep being anxious, but I don't care." So that's what we won't do. We will work with the client to produce the results, and we are accountable for that space and that relationship. So we create the results. That's why coaching is growing so much. So it's different techniques, comes from different philosophies, and we don't go so much to the past. We go from the present to the future. And when we study together, we will explore more about that. But what I can tell you is that it is fascinating to be a powerful coach.
So there's a couple of more questions that I see. Just to also to answer Joanne's follow-up question, when you say coaching is a partnership, one then will be emotionally invested in this partnership. How does one handle that while keeping it professional? Ooh, that's a juicy one. I love that question. Yes, it is definitely a partnership. And one of the fundamental skills that you need to coach effectively is you need to have great awareness of, you have to have empathy and really great awareness of both yourself and other. It's difficult not to get emotionally invested. I had coaching sessions where I've cried with my clients. You know, not all coaches do that, but I think I'm a little bit more emotional. But here's the thing. I think some of the practices that we do keeps you very aware of who you are versus who the other person is. So you know what the boundaries are, and you can easily distinguish between what's yours versus what's others. So this is actually how a lot of beautiful, like, people who've been meditating for a long time, they don't get compassion fatigue. Part of the reason is that even though they're very empathetic, they know how to stay in balance and they know how to keep that boundary. And that's definitely what we do as part of coaches. You know, we understand, we help, we're almost like mirrors. We help other people see what they're going through, but we don't fall into that story and we don't fall into that hole. So that's my quick answer.
And also learning to be in partnership with people, which is something that's major. If you notice the good leaders, the really great leaders, they had a way of being in partnership with their teams or the people they're leading. And what is it to be in partnership? It takes us away from the control, order, and predict model of leadership and management. And it opens up the possibility for the ACE model: acknowledge, create, and empower, which is what's happening with teams around the world. Building a team requires a deep amount of respect and trust that goes both ways. And when I say partnership here, we're talking about how do you be together, because we're inventing something together. We're building something, and that requires a partnership. And we'll learn what partnership is and what is not, because quite often we don't know what partnership is. No, but it's a good question. What is it to be in partnership with someone as they're navigating and cultivating the most important aspects of their lives? What is that, and how do we do it? Now, Anna was talking about one of her clients. I have a great client. He's been a client for 1.5 years now. And my contracts go for 6 months. And then I say, well, you know, we've accomplished what we came here to accomplish. And he said to me, you're not going anywhere. He said, you're the one place where I can come and be listened, which opens up a whole new space for me to not only be with my company, but to be with my wife and my kids. In this partnership, no judgment. You can bring whatever is there, and there's a way then that we can begin to interpret and participate in our humanity together, so that there's more of us to bring to any conversation that we're in, and we call that presence. And it's something that we can learn. We're not taught that in high school or with our parents, but we began to learn, how do I have presence and mindfulness and listening? We work together, and one of our presuppositions, Xavier is a master NLP practitioner, and one of our presuppositions is there's no failure, only feedback. There is no failure, only feedback. I want you to hear the power in that. A young friend of mine went to take his driver's take his driver's test, and he blew the driving part of the test, and it was destroyed. And so I said, shh, you can do that. I said, shh, I want you to hear this presupposition. There is no failure, only feedback. Now, what can you learn from what just happened? Because the outcome that you're going after is to get your driver's license. And he was throwing this, no, I said, listen, it's okay. There is no failure, only feedback. And people who cannot listen to feedback will fail over and over again. So, and we went through it, and this was last week that he failed his test. So he sent me a message today. I passed. And so I called it. He said, I kept hearing, I'm not a failure. I just missed something. And he knew what he missed in the driving test. And then he had access to a different way of being where he could go back and take the test. And this is something with executives and team members that you work with. People live in a constant conversation of failure. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with it. I'm insufficient in some kind of way. And we throw all of that away. No, because we make up our narratives about ourselves. We have our self-declarations, and we get into that in a way that people can begin to notice, become a different kind of observer. I didn't pass the test, but does that make me a failure? No, you just didn't pass the test. It's the only thing that didn't happen. So now from here, what's possible? I'll go back and take the test and learn what I need to learn. Does this make sense? And so we get into, and we have people begin to notice all the ways that they don't show up anymore because they failed in school, in a business, in a relationship or something. But there's that underlying conversation called, I'm a failure. I say, nobody's a failure. And this is the other presupposition we have, that people are whole and complete. Whole and complete. And that people have everything they need right now to accomplish in their life what's possible. And we have to make some new practices, new language, new ways of being. The same thing, you take a whole company and look at a whole company that's failing, and quite a few are now. What do you need to do? And I'll tell the story, and then I'll be quiet. Now, Henry Ford, you know who Henry Ford is? But he brought cars into the world. And at the time, we can say maybe it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. But Henry Ford, during the Depression, would not change how he was doing business. His story is, and it's a great story. And he wouldn't change because he knew what to do and how to do it. But all around him, the world was shifting. New cars are coming into the marketplace, but Henry was going, no, we're going to do it this way, this way. And he even threw his son out under the bridge, so to speak. But the thing is, how do we learn today? Where change is so rapid, and the people who will not learn, for whatever reason, will not do well in our world today. So I want to leave you with that, and I will stop talking so much. But I say your superpower is in learning to learn. And if you can learn, you can go any place on this planet and thrive. But if you can't learn or won't learn, then you will not thrive.
What are the different areas where coaches can offer their services, or what are the different type of coaches that you are training people for?
Yes. Well, we offer the foundation for coaching, and some people will be business coaches. Some people don't have any interest in that domain. Some people will become health coaches. Some people will be relationship coaches. I tend not to coach couples, but some people want to do that. Some people will become financial coaches. We give you the foundation and the principles, and then you decide on your niche, who your avatar will be, who you're speaking with. Like, I have a coach right now, and we connected because her commitment is to having women entrepreneurs succeed. And someone introduced me to me, and she said, that's what I do. I learn about women, I learn about coaching and what it takes to succeed. You see what I'm saying? But you decide on your niche. You decide on who your avatar will be. And then you begin to become an expert in that area, that domain. Not so that you can tell them what to do, but if you were a relationship coach and you're in working with a business and they're talking about, return on investment, and you don't have a clue about what they're talking about, you see, it will be a mismatch. There are all kinds of coaches, and you can carve out your place, what you want to devote your life to in terms of coaching.